is BASSWAY 2020, first half. There's another one coming, December 5th, 2020. But for right now, on this one, I want to thank my closest friends for coming in. Definitely my friends since the late 80s, the great Gouche, Andrew Gouche, the king of gospel, bass that is, and the funkster of funkster, David Dyson. Oh, these boys laid it down. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for checking out all my YouTube stuff. Thanks for your support. And most of all, see you December 5th, 2020 for BASSWAY Part 2.
It's not foolproof, but I like them on the end of my cables, And I like messing with sound now too. But anyway, so they kept messing up, and I'd send them back, and then they would, it'd take them months to give me my cable back. So, but collective cables, great cables, and I'm very happy with it. And they were able to do it, and so, and Gouche is with us. Yeah, shit. You don't even need to know anything else more. This is my soul bass, my original signature. I call it the brown butter. It's only 9 volts. And it's only 9 volts. Why are you laughing? And it's still fat. I love the sound. The original was a smaller body. And the first bass I played on the original was a small body, but when I solo, and this happened during the performance, I solo and I hit the knob, and it went out, and the crowd loved it because they thought I was trying to do, because I was doing this, and they couldn't hear nothing. They're like, oh, shut he getting off without the sound, and then I turned it back up, but it's frustrating. So I had them do a 92 offset. It's a bigger body, the knobs are further away, knobs are further away from my strings, so I don't hear it. So, and I use medium light strings, because I like low bottom, I like the fat lower string, but then my top string, I want it to be thick enough just to have some kind of meat. So it's all for taste. Some people like thinner strings, some like bigger strings. I like them in between, medium lights by done. And of course, I got to do the plug for the group here. Anyway, so position. Let's get back to position. When I developed the meat, I was doing the meat picking. I started learning the regular, palm muting. Like say I first started using it for like breakdowns and stuff like that, or like on a solo when you break it down. It automatically brings down the level, but you can still have a nice sizzling groove. So make a spontaneous bass line or something like that. Now say it's the verse or right down. So I like it for that aspect, and it just has a different vibe. But then my thumb, when I had the solo and stuff, and this was the catalyst. I was on a gig with just me, a keyboardist, and a guitarist. There was no drummer, so I had to keep the rhythm. And we played jazz and some Latin stuff. And then it was time for me to solo. I was like, oh shit, I have a solo during this thing using this technique, and it went pretty well. So then I had a student at the time, Killer. Chops. He's always on the cutting edge of chops and techniques. And when he saw me doing the meat picking, he said, "Man, what's that?" So I knew I had something there, and I started developing it from there. So anyway, so palm muting would be just like in the meat picking. I wanted to add the other fingers, because it was wearing my thumb muscle out. And I was like, I got to do something, especially for solo and stuff. So then I started adding, and you can add different notes and rhythms in there, ghost notes and stuff. So you can make any groove that's just, you can make any groove more interesting. And you can, and within a song, you can make it like, that's the verse. And then here comes the chorus. You can, whatever your mind comes up with, so it's real spontaneous for me. So I can, I can throw anything in, whatever I'm hearing, melodies and rhythms and stuff. So, making mistakes all the time. Sometimes it would just be a rhythmic thing. So say I just added, like ghost notes. And ghost notes is a lot in my playing. I think it adds, that's another aspects of the groove technique that I use a lot of players use. That I think it just adds motion and feeling to the groove. So you can hear it. Now if I just add the ghost notes with my meat picking. Can't help but play a note. Kind of has a perpetual motion thing, and it adds to the groove. I mean, like I said, I got into music because of the feeling of things, not to, so technique-wise, there's a lot of great techniques, but so position-wise, everything's pretty much right there except for when I like to keep my wrist straight because I used to have problems. So I got my mute, palm muted, I got my knee pick. Arm doesn't even move. I can switch technique at the drop of the dime. And even tapping. The tapping, I'm right there. And then chords, I'm right there. So the only time I can change for any technique, even double thumb, I'm right there. Adjustment for fingers. So I'll change from that and go to the fingers. Sorry, I can't talk at the same time I'm playing. So slight adjustment. Now, sound-wise, a lot of you may know this, but it's all a matter of, it depends, but in the studio a lot too. So a crisper sound, get a crisper sound down here near the bridge. And like I was talking to Gouche about earlier, I like to have more. It's always better than you said, James Cleveland said, better to have more than not enough. So it's better to have more trouble and be able to roll it back, more bottom and roll it back and not have enough. And so this bass definitely gives me, I keep this at mid notch for bass, because it would be, for studio or live, it's like way too much. And it's only 9 volts. That's what blew my mind. And so same thing with the treble, sometimes I may turn it up, and it can be really bright. And I never even do the pull-out switch for the treble. It'd be like off the chart. So, but I like to have, like to have more than enough. So where was I right now? Talking about changing techniques, changing techniques within the group. Now, 3 things that are really important to the groove, to me, groove-wise. are the feeling, like I said before. Number 2 is consistency. And number 3 is, it's pullback. Consistency, and when I say consistency, I mean like pullback. When I say pullback, that's what you know as behind the beat. But consistency of that's what creates that pocket. And how far that you pull back. So feeling, consistency, and placement. Trying to forget my placement. Placement is super important. So that's important for all the. It's just very important where you place stuff because even in a recording, I can go into interlocking, and interlocking groove that I call it. The placement is in between what the kick would normally do for a drummer. Where's our drum at? Okay, come on, let's give our drum. What's your name? Huh? Shanae? Shanae. Yeah, good to have him. So, this is what, we're all talking, start off like this. And it's cool, it works every time. Tell the bass player to follow the kick. But my favorite groove is in between the kick. It's almost like thinking like percussions. So just do a regular go. So let's do it. On with the kick, right? It's not called interlocking, it's in between them. I love that kind of thing, and I hear it in all kind of stuff. I mean, even with the songs I've written already, then I'll mess around with them and use, interlocking grooves in different places and change up stuff. So it extends your creativity to be able to know stuff like that. Let's mess with let's talk about the feel, consistency, and pullback. So this is a simple beat. Actually, like, more words like that. I don't even know the key, but I know the vibe. Thank you. See what we got next. So you got all these tools. You got ghost notes. You got slides. It's the kind of, I guess right now, before I work on some, first of all, any questions? Questions? Yes, sir.
Is it a 35-inch steel?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, he's acting on all that, you know. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you were saying how you set your base. How do you set your base?
My base on
On your base.
on my base?
Yeah, I know you said.
Oh, okay. On my base? Okay. It's real simple too. And it's funny that Johnny was talking about switches, because originally I wanted to switch between, because I wanted to, you know, when I want to have it sound kind of like even like a, you know, fretless or whatever. You know, but I just, you know, Pete was kind of against it, and I'm glad. But I have it at the second notch, which I'm not sure which hertz it is, but I have my tone all the way up. The pan knob all the way up. My treble, I'm sorry. The pan is, I guess back here. This is the mid-range sweep, I'm sorry. Mid-range sweep is all the way up. And it's the mid-range is at the mid notch. The treble, right, Johnny? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the treble is in the mid. I keep it on at the mid notch in the treble, unless I'm doing something with thumb. But everything else, I can keep it in the mid notch. The bass is at mid notch, and then volume where it depends on, you know. So. But if I want more punch from the top. That's not with the pull-out joint. I ain't trying to, you know, I ain't. That's what
You can pull it out.
You want to hear it? That's what it all the way out. I never even mess with that. I just keep it. Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna play something for y'all right quick. Let's get some more questions. Yes, sir.
What kind of amp are you?
Oh, thank you. I didn't even say nothing about it. Wayne Jones. I'm telling you. Wayne Jones audio is from Australia. Australia is that 2 years ago, as soon as I came in, Nathaniel Phillips said, so when I came in, Nathaniel Phillips, good friend of mine, killer bass player with Pleasure and plays with everybody. He said, man, go downstairs, this booth, whatever. I guess he wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I just went, I said, okay, I'll check it out. I went down there, and then it was the Wayne Jones booth, and I told him, you know, Nathaniel told me to come down there, so I wanted to check it out. And then Nathaniel and Wiz from One of His Finest came down there, both my heroes too. And yeah, and I was like, oh shoot, and I've talked to Wiz on the phone before and on Facebook and stuff. I never got to finally meet him in person. I was like, oh shoot, man, shoot, man, I was at the Capitol Center watching you on stage when I was a little kid, man. So, you know, I was like, you know, starstruck. So anyway, I kind of took off my bass because I was about to check out the clip. They said, no, they can't hear me play. I was like, oh, shit. So, but anyway, I played and I got the endorsement right there. Wayne Jones is first class, stand-up guy. I mean, I can't tell you nicer things about this guy. I mean, the equipment's killing. This is the second preamp, so it's 1,000 watts right here. It's a built-in amp built into the cabinet, 210, and it's 1,000 watts. And then what's on top is a preamp. That's the second preamp. It's like a dual preamp. And I have 2 of those cabinets, so it'll be 2,000 watts. And it's crazy. But it's a great amp. Great amp cabinet, so I'm real happy with it. Anyway, any other questions? All right, so I'm gonna play something off my last release. It's gonna be the title cut. It's gonna be a second, because I got a long lead in here. How much good time we got, Johnny?
I like it.
Huh? Okay. So on this song I do, I start off doing mute picking. I usually do, not mute picking. Simple. Is it unmuted?
It is.
Okay, thank you, sir. I want to try to put you on blast. Oh, I double clicked it, my fault. I paused it again. All right, we good, sorry. sorry about that. I had the mute on too, so anyway, usually live I start that off with the whole mute clicking stuff. So the bass line is just. With the music. But that's the most important thing, focusing on trying to be original, not trying to be, it's good to learn from all of us and everybody else and each other. You're supposed to absorb everybody, but then turn it and make it your own thing. And that's how people will recognize you and when you get called. So, thank you for dealing with me. I hope you got something done. Most of the different downloads are up, and I'm gonna get some lessons from Gouche. So, you know what's going on there.
When I first did the song, I said, well, it sounds pretty good, but what can I do with it? So this is what I did. This is the original song. It goes something like this. That crazy chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. That crazy chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. That crazy chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. That crazy chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. Why you wanna eat that crazy chicken? Why you wanna eat that crazy chicken? Oh, see, good. That crazy chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. So, Papa Chicken put my thing up. I can't think this thing on my face. So, Papa Chicken put an ad up. If anybody can come up with a slogan or whatever they want to do for their chicken, I came up with this. Papa Chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. Papa Chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. Get Papa Chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. Get Papa Chicken, it tastes so good when you get all night long. Why when you eat that Papa Chicken? Why when you eat that Papa Chicken? 'Cause it's good. That Papa Chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. That Papa Chicken, it's so good when you get all night long. Love my chicken from Popeye. It's crazy. So, singing and playing is like you can't think about one thing and do something else. It's like I had to learn that. It was Larry Graham that actually got me started doing that. I learned his first album he did when I started playing on one string. I had a bass with one string on it, and I learned the whole album on that one string. And I said, well, there's got to be something else I need to do other than just play that song or every song on the album. So I started learning his album and then try to sing it. I'm not the greatest singer in the world. I never claimed to be, But whatever I do the best of it for me. All right, so Gouche is gospel. He's straight gospel, that's what he is. So I'm gonna do this little gospel tune, and then I'm gonna get out your way, and I'm gonna give out some stuff. Honey, you can bring this. I'm gonna do this gospel song. My grandma used to sing this song all the time. So I'm gonna do it. Down at the cross where my Savior died. Now where from sin I got. Yeah, you my heart. There was one person David said he played with. I just needed one quick name. One person he said he played with many people, but there was one person he said he played with, and I got it in my head. It was a young lady. Who can tell me who that person was? Raise your hand. Who was it? All right, come to the screen. All right, these are SIT strings. I really like these. Just put your hand on this bass right here. SIT strings. These are power ones. Here you go, brother. You got a 6 or 5? Yeah, power. Well, you can't use these. Get the ones on the floor there. Okay, real quick, like, what kind of bass did David play? That's close enough. These are skulls. Not tobacco. He said, skulls. 4? You got 4, right? I don't want to put it. All right. Anybody know where David's from? Gouche don't need nothing, man. What do you need? We need to ask you for stuff. Everybody know where David's from? Okay, brother. Maryland. What part of Maryland? Oh, man! Okay, go ahead and get your stuff. That's the Tone Monster preamp he's picking up right now. How many people have heard of Tone Monster? 2 people. 2's good. 2's good. All right, I got one more thing to give away. You don't want to, I'll take it. Okay. What kind of bass am I playing? You can't get all the stuff. Y'all all right, bro. What kind of bass I'm playing?
Ken Smith?
All right. Come on, get stuff. You come on, get stuff.
Okay.
Y'all need to liven up now. Come on.
I don't know what's wrong with him, Gouche, man. They like this. It's a math scale, 4 or 5.
5.
There you go. All right. This is amazing. And I'm going to say this because I met this brother in 1984. I went to the Gospel Music Workshop. It was my first year, man. I ain't know nobody from Dick, Tom, and Harry, or Sue, or Jane. I ain't know either one of them. But I walked in this place, and there was thousands and thousands and thousands of people sitting there watching this guy perform. Actually, they was teaching a song. And every time somebody would come up with a song, this guy would get up and start playing. But you got to remember, back in those days, we had 200 or 300 musicians sitting on there in the corner ready to play. In case y'all never went to GMWA. There used to be 200 or 300 people, whether they be bass players, drummers, or whatever the case may be. And I came there, and I stood on the side of the stage, and I watched this brother. I was like, man, I don't know who he is, but it's just crazy. And I got to play something before I leave. And I got a chance to sit there and watch him play a 4-string G and L. Am I right, Gouche? Yeah. A 4-string G and L, and man, I was just blown away. It was just amazing. And to see how quickly he learned songs. I mean, we only had a couple minutes to learn a song, and then they're gonna play it. You know, that kind of thing. Then rehearsals. And to sit there and watch him, it was a work of art. Then to see him years later, you know, with the Whinings and with Andre Crouch, and then with, you know, with Gladys Knight, and then Chaka Khan. And then every time I turn around, I see him on TV, and then I saw him with L.A. What really got me really impressed with him, I never told him. L.A. Mass Choir. When I saw L.A. Mass Choir, and then he was standing just like that, and he had a Tobias in his hand with an SWR 210 and an SWR head, if I'm wrong, correct me. Yeah, see, you don't remember. He don't even remember. That's how close I am. That's how much I've been following this guy. And then And and then I did a song for the GMWA, and then he produced the album that I wrote the song for. And it was just amazing. And then, I mean, through the years, I could keep going and going and going on and on and on. And it just become, like, dude, when are you going to play? So I'm going to introduce to some, because I've been knowing him for years and I love him, and he knows that. Yeah, man, I know, right? And right now, ladies and gentlemen, with all the respect I can give him, Mr. Andrew Gouche.
God bless you guys. First thing I need everybody to do, just take your mask off for a second so I can see your face.
Please.
It's creeping me out, man. I'm like, it just looks like compliant with all of the rules and all that and respect everybody's space. There's something that's lacking with diminished physical human contact, and so I'm trying. I did a 5-hour flight yesterday with a mask on. I was like, I can't wait to get back home so I don't have to wear a mask no more. And brother, you right here, I just want you to know I saw your post. And God bless all you guys. My brother Johnny Long, 1984, that's crazy. Back then, we never imagined being where we are now. I'm 61 years old. I never thought I'd hear myself say that, When we were kids, we asked our dad how old he was. He said he was 37. He was like, 37? You're old. And then I don't even remember what I was doing when I was 37. My oldest son is 43. And I praise God for the opportunity. Before I go any further, how many gospel musicians in here? Good. I praise God for all the opportunity to do what I do. I never take it lightly. I always think about the fact that it didn't have to be me, God saw fit to put me in the places that he put me in. And I never, at least I tried to never get the big head about it, because I know some incredible players that, everybody knows somebody, be like, man, that joker's dope. How come he never did more? But at the end of the day, God decides who's going to do what, and we have to be able to be grateful for whatever it is that he blesses us with. I said something earlier, and the lady right here said you're telling your age. 1973, I saw Larry Graham in Grand Central Station on Soul Train. And I was playing the trumpet at the time, and I asked my mother to give me a bass, so she got me a bass for Christmas that year. And I was singing in the choir at James Cleveland's church in Los Angeles. And his bass player is a guy named Bruce Carter. Anybody know about GMWA? Remember Bruce? And Bruce was playing for James, but he still lived in New York, so he wasn't in LA. So there was no bass player at the church. So James used to let me sit over on the side and just try to figure out the song. So I always give him all the credit, well, not all the credit, but a lot of the credit for allowing me to grow and be surrounded by incredible musicians. My story is different than a lot of people because I'm not formally trained at all. I totally taught myself to play. Only in recent years that I even know the names of stuff that I was doing. I get some guy, hey man, so when you do that hammer-on, and I'm like, what? What's that? I know what a lot of stuff is now, but I totally am just a field-oriented player. I've played what I felt, and when I started out back in the day, there weren't a lot of gospel bass players, it wasn't a prominent instrument in gospel back then. I remember when I was in my teens and I went to a church to play, and they were like, we don't need, that's why my name of my album is We Don't Need No Bass, because they actually told me, they said, we don't need no bass. An organ player can play bass on the pedals. Mm-hmm. And so when I finally did my first record, I made a song about that. Of course, that song is all bass. But I'm gonna talk a little bit and then I'm gonna play a lot, okay? I started out with James, and from James I went to meet, we went up to Oakland, California in 82 or 83 to Walter Hawkins Church for their anniversary, and that's where I met Walter Hawkins. And then I started playing with the Hawkins family. And during that time, I met Joe Smith, my brother, Joe Smith, he would play bass and drums on the record. So he would play drums live on the session, and then he would go in the studio and put all the bass on. And a friend of mine named Derek Schofield, anybody know about way back gospel, Schofield was playing drums with the Hawkins family, and Joel was playing bass, Johnny Dubose was playing guitar. And I just knew, I was like, man, I've got to play with those guys. And then something happened with Derek where he wasn't able to play anymore, and that's when I was like, okay, this is my chance. So I literally went up to Walter when I saw him in Oakland, and I said, dude, I have to play with y'all. And it was funny because he was like, well, I don't want to offend James. I said, man, forget James. I can play with y'all. And so I wound up playing with the Hawkins family, and then in 83, but I was still playing with James. This is the crazy part. I was still playing with James, and then in 83, I went to Israel with James. We did a concert. It was James Cleveland, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, Shirley Caesar, and Andre Crouch. And we were there for a week, but we only played one night at this open amphitheater in Jerusalem. And everybody, a couple of days before the actual concert, they did a run-through because they were taping it for TV. And so we did our set with James. And Andre Crouch actually said to me, he came up to me and said, hey man, I really love the way you play. And in my mind, I went, okay, yeah, right, Andre Crouch loves the way I play. But all these people, I used to see their names. See, back in the day, most of y'all in here old enough to remember when we used to take the album and pull out the jacket and read the credits. Wasn't no internet and all this instant fame. Like, we bought the records and we looked at the credits. That's how we knew who were playing on the records. And so he said, I really love the way you play. He said, I want to do some work with you. And then a month later, I was in the studio with Andre recording that No Time to Lose album. One with Otis, Jesus, and all those songs on it. And then when I was playing with Andre, we did the Christian Booksellers Convention in '94 in Anaheim, California. And the Winans had just come out. And so Andre Crouch's band backed up the Winans. And so that's how I met the Winans. And then at one point, but then when I was doing Andre Crouch's record, we were playing on a song called Living This Kind of Life. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that song. But the keyboard rolls on there is Joe Sample. Really? So that's how I met Joe Sample. And then Joe was like, man, I really love the way you play, man. I want to do some work with you. So then I wound up playing with the Jazz Crusaders. So at one point I was playing with Andre Crouch, James Cleveland, Walter Hawkins, the Winans, and the Jazz Crusaders all at the same time. I was doing all of it. And just, it was crazy because for a couple of months, none of the dates collided. And then one day, all of them, like everybody had a gig that same weekend, and I had to choose. And I quit all the other gigs and I moved to Detroit to play with the Winans. So then, that's all I'm gonna say about that. That's the beginning of my story. And I got the gig with Shaka Khan in 2006. And she saw me play with the great violinist Karen Briggs. You guys ever seen her? If you ever saw that concert of Yanni at the Acropolis, and the girl with the dreads, with the red dress on, playing the violin, that's Karen Briggs. We used to play together a lot in LA. And Shaka came to the show. And then a couple of years later, actually, she called and said, I want you to be my musical director. And I'll just get all this out the way, because I'm going to pull it up. And so for 5.5 years, I was Shaka Khan's musical director. And then in 2011, just out of nowhere, she fired us, just fired the whole band. And 2 weeks before Christmas, we were supposed to go to Japan in January of 2012. And she called me and said that she was not taking us to Japan, which was her way, which was kind of not a cool way to fire her. She was trying to find an excuse. So when she fired us, and I've learned, I've been fired off for more gigs than anybody that I know. So I realized that most of these artists, they're just crazy. And they just fire you when they get ready to. A lot of them will just go back on the road and you still be at home and you'll be like, wait a minute, where's everybody at? And you just got fired. I've been fired like that too. But it was crazy because the week after Shaka fired us, Cassandra O'Neal, great keyboard player for Prince, called me and said, Prince wants to have your number. He wants to know if he can call you. And I was like, yeah, sure. So a couple of days later, I get this call, and I knew it was him because it was this weird number, like 065 in my call, right? He said it had to be him because he's that mysterious, right? And so I picked up the phone and I said, hello. He goes, Mr. Gouche. And the first thing I thought was, Prince knows my name. And he said, I have some things I'm doing in the coming year, and I want to know if you want to be involved. I was like, sure. He said, okay, great. He said, can you come to Minnesota? Now, keep in mind, this is the middle of December, and Minnesota is one of the coldest places on earth in the winter. And I was like, sure. He said, I'll have my assistant call. So I hung up. She called back 5 minutes later. He said, Prince wants you to come tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool. She said, well, give me your information. I'll get your ticket. And so, gave her my, birthday and all of that stuff. 10 minutes later, I get an email from Delta. With my flight for the next day, I said, oh man, flight is tomorrow. It's so close. I got to go on Delta website and give me an exit row aisle so I can have some leg room, right? And I said, oh, and then I looked at the reservation. It was first class. I was like, oh, okay, this is that kind of gig. And I actually said, Lord, before I die, I want to give me one of those kind of gigs that I heard about. And then the girl called me back and said 5 words that nobody ever said to me. She said, do you need us to get you a car? I mean, do you need us to get you a car? 9 words that nobody ever said to me, right? And I was like, yeah. So I used to do limos to my house to pick me up for the gig. It was really ridiculous because it's a blessing and a curse because you get spoiled. You get used to having it. The worst thing ever is when you operate it like that and then it stops. You fly first class, and I'm telling you, if you've never flown first class, coach is fine. But the first time you fly first class, you're like, man, they've been jipping me the whole time. Because in first class, they suck up to you. You fly coach, they act like you work for them. And so it was very humbling when that gig stopped for me because I had to go back to coach, and it just made me realize to really appreciate all of it. Don't take it for granted. Don't get the big head. And don't trip out on nobody because the same folks you see when you're coming up, you're going to see them when you're coming down. And they're going to remember you how you treated them when you were up. So, with that, I'm going to play some things. I'm going to play, how many of you guys have seen some of my videos and like the Scott's bass lesson stuff and all that? You guys see that? Everybody always trips up. I got to crack my knuckles because I'm old and it ain't easy like it used to be. Like that shout music video, I did that song in 2005. So I'm here for this. 15 years ago, I was 15 years faster and more limber then. So, but I may play that. But I'm gonna play the Shaka Khan. The thing that I was most,
how many CDs you got?
1. I'm working on the second one. I'm almost finished with it now.
Yeah, I got that.
But one of the things I was most proud about with my time with Shaka was that she asked me, when I got the gig, I said, so do you want me to do the songs like the record? She said, no, I want you to change everything. I want you to do your thing. So all these arrangements, I got to really do some of my own arrangements on her show. So I'm gonna play a little bit of that. So I need you guys to at least smile. If you ain't gonna clap, smile or something. All right, we're all friends here, right? All right.
Could I ask you a question, please, Star?
Yes, sir.
I heard you say, and I heard you say that once y'all got a compliment, you said, yeah, you know Gouche, and yeah, you know such. Why were you so surprised that somebody knew you?
Because the hardest
Recognized you.
the hardest thing a lot of times for a lot of people to do is to view themselves like other people view you. And we are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
So because I didn't idolize, but I held him in such high esteem that to get a compliment from him was amazing to me. But then what you realize when you, like all these celebrities, everybody started out the same place, you know, and they're all people, they put their pants on one leg at a time, like we do. And most of the time, not all the time, you get around these people and you realize they're just regular people too. Because and a lot of times it's not that they change, but what happens is the way people treat you different according to how they view you. And I had people say, I probably can't call you now, you cost too much. I'm like, well, how do you know? You didn't ask me, you know?
Yeah.
And I get that a lot, you know. I still get that now. Like, I probably can't afford you. Well, you won't know because you didn't ask me. And then I say yes to people and they're like surprised. And I say yes, but I'm like, dude, I'm a musician just like you. I've been blessed to do some cool things, but I still gotta eat, you know. It's like the money I made with Prince, been gone. Don't get took half of that. So I'm gonna play this arrangement of I Feel For You and Ain't Nobody that I did for Shot.
We gotta get it right, Chuck.
It's
I was like starting to run a 100-yard dash without warming up. So it's amazing because things that used to be really easy are not. Anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
What's your favorite 4, 5, or 6 string?
For me now, because when I started playing, there were no choices. There were no such thing as a 5-string bass, and I can play them all, but my preference is 6. And the reason being is the funny thing when I was playing with Prince, he's a very sarcastic dude. He'd be like, "Yeah, Gouche's bass has all those strings on it. Why do you have to have all those strings?" And he and Larry Graham were best friends. Larry actually lives in Minnesota. He'd be like, "Well, you know, Larry's bass only has 4 strings." I said, "Well, you know, Prince, this bass has those 4 strings on it. There they go right there. I have those strings." And then he goes, "Well, Larry's bass doesn't have all those knobs." said, well, I said, you know what, Prince? This bass is the reason you called me. And he went like this. When I realized he and I got along really cool because he appreciated the fact that I wasn't like all like kissing up to him and stuff. A lot of times celebrities want you to just treat them like regular people too, you know, so. Yes, sir.
I'm not basically none of that. But is it a song or is it a moment or a time or something that you ever heard that moves you or bring a tear to your eye at that time?
Many, 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 many. This will sound unbelievable, but the drummer I talked about, Derek Schofield, he's the only drummer that I saw him, watched him play, and it made me cry. But it was the spirit so strong in him. It wasn't talent. I appreciate talent, and there's all kinds of talent. There's so many incredible players, but I'm not motivated to. I see other people with all the licks and chops, but what gets me, I'm gonna play a song from my album, and I did this song because everybody, you know, the things that get glorified on YouTube are all a whole bunch of chop stuff, and like my shop music video has people on that Scott's bass lessons has like 300,000 views, and a lot of bass players have just found out about me because of that, and that's good, that's fine, but that's not what moves and motivates and fulfills my musical needs. Like I find myself, I go on YouTube and that Thank You Lord video by Walter Hawkins, that live video, I cannot tell you how many times I've watched it in a row, you know, and that song just ministers to me, you know, and I gravitate to music that does that to me, you know. Yes, sir.
Is that the mini bass?
Yes.
How do you use that in different
I'll
settings?
show you. So this one it's one of this is my signature mini bass. MTD, that's the basses I use. It has the rolling, the thing you guys see on guitars that had that big thing sitting up here to plug into. He actually built the bass for me and built it inside. So this is a 13-pin plug. It's controlling this thing down here, the V99. I'll let you hear it. It's crazy. Because I don't play synth bass, so I get to do this. And the cool part is I can blend it.
This private stock is not going on.
And that's fine, you post it, that's cool. You know, but like, I can do this right here. I use this on my album. How many of you guys have heard my album?
I got it.
How many of you don't have it?
Need to get it.
I have CDs and
There you go.
actually you know what? I'm gonna just give everybody a CD. I was gonna sell them, but I'll give everybody one. $20. The song on my album is called Sundays, and it's a fretless sound, and I don't play fretless, but that song is actually called Wellington Road. It's going on my next album. I'm my own song. But anyway, we're here. Yes, sir.
Your feels.
I can hear you.
Your approach to feels in between each passage note, whether to go up or come down, and how do you?
My brain does not work like that. It doesn't. And see what a lot of people, I give lessons, I do a lot of private lessons now. And it's funny because the first thing that everybody wants to know, they want to know how to do certain licks. But it makes no sense to show you how if you don't know why. You know, and I tell people, the thing about when you see people like David and Johnny and myself, you gotta understand, we didn't just wake up yesterday doing the stuff we do. I've been playing bass for 45 years. So there's a process that exists. And there's no getting around unless you like that boy, Justin, he gets on my nerves.
Aaron Hoden?
No, Justin, what's his name? Schultz. The boy was just playing keys. Then he went to guitar, and then I just saw him killing so hard on bass. I mean, that boy is just touched, he's touched by God. But he's been playing since he was 3 years old, you know. So there's a process that happens. And so in answer to your question, for years, and even today, I'll start somewhere, and I'm doing this. That is going to end up where I want it to go. You know, we all have our go-to licks of things that we always do. But the only way you grow, you always have to continue to stretch, do things that you don't know how to do. And you do it in practice, you know, and even I post live every now and then because I like to show people that, because most of the videos you see that people do, they've worked it out like meticulously, and then they post it. But there's a process. All those guys, they didn't just turn the thing on record and then post it. They rehearsed it a bunch of times. All these sweet little fills they did, they worked all that stuff out. And then they recorded it, and then they posted it. So I did a couple of videos. I've done it a few times because I just want people to understand that I don't care who it is. Well-known musicians, they go through a part where they don't have it right yet. We all go through that. And that's where the practice comes in. And I wanted to show people that everybody, myself, I go through that, you know. I'm sitting there and I'm actually doing tracks for people, and I'm going live while I'm doing tracks. And I have to stop over, stop, start over, stop, start over. Because I'm working it out in my mind how I want to do it too. But in terms of doing licks, I don't know. I just let the Spirit use me, God. You know, I don't know how to explain it. I just, you know, but it helps too that I know my neck. That way, I don't have to be doing this the whole time while I'm playing. You know, and those are the things that are not fun that everybody doesn't want to do, like this. That's not funky. Who wants to do that, you know? But those are the things, getting your dexterity. Everybody, since the shout music video came out, I get jokers. I want to learn how to do that. First of all, do you know God? Because that's what shout music is about. It ain't just about going, you just sound like you're just doing that. But it's like, there's layers to it. It ain't just starting out to do it. So when I'm doing a few, I don't know, man. Just say I'm playing. And for a drummer, if you don't mind playing, I'm gonna let y'all pick a key, and I'll just start playing, like, and you pick the groove you want to play, whatever you want to play. And what key you want to play? Not E. I actually, hold on. I've come this close, man. I realize that certain things I cannot say. But I've come to this close to say, if I see one more slap bass in E funk groove, I'm gonna hunt you down and shoot you. I'm so sick of it. Because back in the day, first of all, slap bass, it was stumping and plucking. And then somebody took it, like they take everything else. Renamed it. But this is slapping. I don't do that. I don't do that to my bass. Thumping and plucking. Okay, now. What key? C. You said C? Okay.
That's too far. Thank you. I find one over here. Thank you.
All of that was just, I don't know, whatever came into my head, I played. It was a little bit sloppy, but that's how songs are made. Songs come from doing grooves, and like I have one that goes. I used to do this one. That's just something I just used to like. Just when I pick up my bass and start playing. This is another one. That's a song on my record. It's called Geronimo. It's funny because, and I know you can attest to this, when you're trying to name your songs, like you say the name to the song and you say it in your head, and it just sounds so stupid when you say it. But I don't know, I was like, when I heard it, Geronimo. What happened, just think about Marcus Miller's Maputo. What made him name it Maputo? Well, when you hear that bass line, you go Maputo, you know. My song Sundays, my youngest son, who's 17 now, when I first recorded it, he's really deep and ethereal, genius kid. And I had him come in the studio. I said, Ryan, I said, I need a name. I need a name for this song. And it was a trip. He was 10 years old. And he closed his eyes for like 3 seconds and he said, Sundays. And I was like, wow.
You said what?
Sundays. The name of the song is Sundays. And it just tripped me out because when he said it, the song made me think different things that people do on Sundays. Most people go to church, some people go to picnics, and I saw this whole thing like in my head, like all the different things that people do on Sundays. And a lot of people tell me that's their favorite song on my album. All of them are my favorites to me, but a lot of people say that. So, yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
First, heard the song with
I can't understand what you're saying.
my bad, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Fred Hill. The song you did with Fred Hill. You two have like
Secret Place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You two have like a co-kinship brotherhood.
I've known Fred. I met Commission in 1982 or 3. I was playing with James Cleveland. It was 83 because I was playing with James. This was crazy. The Fox Theater in Detroit. And I was playing, it was James Cleveland and the Hawkins family. That's a funny story because James got mad because I was playing with the Hawkins family that night. But Fred, the Commission had a booth set up in the lobby of the Fox Theater. It's this magnificent theater in Detroit. It was built in the 20s. And they were selling a video, this bootleg video of them singing their songs in somebody's basement. And they were called Commission. That's when I first met them. So I've known Fred that long. That's my boy, you know. And he, down through the years, I've played with them a couple of times. In 92, we were doing this play called Only the Strong. And we came here, we were here. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we just, that's my boy. And he happened to be in LA. He had a meeting in LA. And I had told him that I was doing the song. I did the song initially. My brother's first wife had passed from cancer, and they asked me to play that song at her memorial service. And that's when I really fell in love with it again. And so I recorded it, and I said, man, it would be dope to have Fred do the exact same thing that he did on the original record, on my record. And he happened to be in LA, so he came to my house and came and did it, took 1 or 2 takes, and that's what you hear on the record. Yeah.
My second question is, there's one album you was on. I don't think you get enough credit for it. Your work you did with Paul Moore, Mr. Paul Moore. Were you the music director on that? It sounded like you were. I mean, the work you was doing, and what you put in on that whole album is really phenomenal.
The thing about me, when people call me, they don't call me because they want a bass player. They call me because they want Andrew Gouche. There are a lot of people that hate the way I play. They're like, oh, he plays too much, he plays too busy. And I've learned that, no matter what you do, everybody's not gonna like you. So you can't even get caught up in that. As long as you follow in your own heart, you'll never go wrong. There's certain, I knew years ago there's certain gigs I was never gonna get. I'm just not that guy, but I'm good with that. God has blessed me in so many other ways and shocked me with, like when I got the call from Prince, he's the last guy I ever would have thought that would want to have me play with him, because everything that he does is so regimented. But what I realized when I got there was that he was evolving into another place in his life where he was stretching. People like that, I say all the time, we live in a world of emulators. There's a whole bunch of emulators, but there's very few innovators. And the innovators are the ones that dare to follow their heart, do what they believe, regardless of the criticism. A lot of times they get all kind of criticism initially, like Jocko. Jocko was like hated at first. And now people talk about him like he's the world's greatest bassist that ever lived. So there's always somebody that goes through that part. And then once the innovators have success, then all the emulators copy what they did, And that's what I think Prince was. So by the time he called me, he was moving into another place, because the first thing I said to him when I got there, I said, listen, man, whatever you want me to do, just let me know. And his exact words, he said, I want you to do your thing. And if there's something specific, I'll tell you. And that's how it was. And then it was funny because it caused friction among some of the other band members. They actually went to him complaining, like, why does Gouche have so much freedom? And he actually called me out on the way. He was like, Gouche, can I talk to you? He said, what if I gave everybody else the freedom that you have? And I'm looking at him like, are you crazy? I'm doing what you said. And I told him, I said, look, bro, I said, if you want me to play on one string, I'll play on one string. I don't care. Because he pays so much money. If I told you how much he paid for one show, you wouldn't believe it. I ain't even tell you, because it's like I get embarrassed to say. But I made for one show with him twice what I made in a week as musical director of the shop. Yeah, it was crazy like that. But, so, the Paul Morton record was just me, my boy, I think James Brown was producing it. And I gave James Brown his start in LA. See, I'm the OG. I'm so much older than most of the people that I work with. A lot of cats, especially in LA, they started out playing with me. And he called me for the record, and we just did. And then too, it was a collaborative effort. It wasn't just me imposing my will. Like, we came up with stuff like Johnny, song, Higher Praise, yeah. That's Johnny. That's Johnny's idea. And there's this one. That I did. Like, that was my lick. So we all did stuff. It wasn't just me dictating what was going on. It was a collaboration. And that speaks volumes as to having the right people in situations, not just, everybody kind of on the same page, one way or another. If we just doing, well, everybody got to be on that page too. But that comes with levels of professionalism and approaching each situation accordingly. Like what Dave said. Like he said, he was doing a Japanese record. He played real simple, and then they said, "Well, can you do more?" And I usually don't go in. I go in doing, because I realize when people call me, they call me because they really want me. And even though it was amazing. I played we played at the United Center in Chicago. We did 3 nights there, and I got my boy Percy Beatty tickets to the show. Percy, he said, after the show, he's like, man, it's unbelievable. You didn't play Phil the whole show. And because certain songs like Cool is this. Nothing else. My natural bass player feel and how I came up is to like add. When I tell you Prince hated ghost notes, he hated them, and he came and stood in front of me, and I would go. Like he literally stood in front of me and did that. And when people ask me what I take away from that gig, that was what the appreciation that I had is that I learned, because I never had to be in a situation where I had to play a specific thing. And that was my first time. When we rehearsed Cool, we rehearsed it for about 45 minutes straight. He liked to do that, just play stuff. And he'd go around, he might go to the keys, he might go to the guitar or whatever. And I'm just sitting there going. I literally started getting drowsy. I looked down in my neck and it looked like the notes started moving. I've never done that before. But that's the thing that I took away from that gig. And then his level of excellence with him, it was perfection or nothing. There was no 99% with him. And that's why a lot of people couldn't last with him, you know. And I made it my mission. Because there was a bunch of times I wanted to punch him in his little head so many times, man. But I respect him because there's a reason that he has the success that he has, you know. So that was what I took from that. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've heard you on a lot of albums. You know what I'm saying? I've seen you a lot of times live. I think, to me, there's two sessions that I've seen you play that really took me over the limit. And one of them is James Moore in Mississippi Mass. Man, basically, that was the epitome for me. They see and hear you play. That everything was right that night. You, Cheryl, the whole 9 yards was just, y'all was killing, man.
And that's what it was. We were all on the same page, and it was nobody imposing their will on the songs. Like, we worked together, and it comes out of mutual respect too. When you respect the people that you're playing with, because that was the thing. When I used to do those seminar records, I would be going, okay, are these guys cool with what I'm playing? And I'd never been in a situation where I was looking around and hoping that the other cats liked what I was doing, you know. But that's how you grow too. If you get to a point where you think you're so good and you're not learning anything else, that's when you become that dude that be sitting around talking about all the gigs you used to do, but ain't nobody calling you for nothing, you know. And I don't care how long you've been playing. Like, for me, I'm inspired when I see Derek Bennett and K-Bass and all these kids, man. They're doing stuff. And the boy from Florida, Frank Bruno, like, they're like killing it. And so I look at them and I'm like, that just shows me that there are possibilities. I hear a lot of stuff in a lot of bass players that I know they got from me, but that's fine. Because if I see them do something that I like, and if I can do it, I'm gonna do it. And I'll tell you in a minute, Doc, I'm using that. I'm telling you right now. So, and that's the thing about this. You never get to the point where you've arrived. You've never arrived. You're always trying to get better. And there's always gonna be something that you don't know. That thing that David does with all his fingers, my fingers be like, bro, what are you doing? Just use these two and this one, and don't do nothing else. So, you know, and then too, you just have to be comfortable in your own skin and use what God gave you, you know, and be happy with that. Don't be hating on nobody because they can do some stuff you can't do, and just be the best you that you can be, right? Yes, sir.
So how was it, what was it like, I guess mentality-wise and experience for that transition from being under Reverend Cleveland and everything, and then being a bass player, being in groups and bands, to transitioning into that leadership role before being MD and being in charge?
You know what? I go back and try to remember what it was. I always was somebody. I've always had ideas, like the Edwin Hawkins music in our seminar. I should have got songwriting credit for that song, because everybody knows that song because of that bass line. So I was doing stuff. I was doing ideas. James Moon record, same thing. I can't remember the songs. Some of the songs in my brain, but I was already leading, but I hadn't been put in a leadership role. And then when I think people recognized my leadership capabilities, and that's what made them put me in that role. I'll never forget, I wasn't anybody's musical director until BB in 1988. I saw him at the Stellar Awards, and he came up to me and said, man, I want you to be my musical director. And I'm like, he saw something that I didn't really recognize in myself, because I've known him since '84. And he came to me and asked me to be his musical director. And then everybody saw me like that. My name kind of really got out there on the BB and CC. And that's when Tobias blew up, because I was playing that 5-string Tobias that I had. And that's when everybody kind of started looking at me like that. And then I became Andre's MD because Bill Maxwell, the drummer that produced all the records, he started doing all the TV shows. Like he did Amen and Living Single and all that stuff. He got put on. So he wasn't there anymore, so I kind of just fell into that role with Andre. So it wasn't me doing anything. Other people recognized it before I did. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What strings are you using in the Gauche?
These particular strings are Dean Markley SR 2000s. Unlike my brother, I don't like these are light gauge strings. And so for me, the light gauge string just makes it me not have to work as hard. My hands are strong enough I could use any gauge, but if I just want to go, just like sometimes just little things like vibrato on long notes just sounds sweeter to me, you know. So that's just me. That's my preference. And a lot of people, I tune down a whole step. And a lot of people were like, how can you do that with light gauge strings? But listen to it. They work, you know. So that's all it is. And everybody has to find what works for them, you know. That's what works for me. So this is actually my last set. I played D Marcus for probably 25 years. This is my last set. I put them on here. But I'm looking at DR strings, which I like too. And so I have a whole bunch of those on. Don't nobody put on there. Don't post nothing that said these are SR 2000s. Because DR just sent me a bunch of strings. Yes, sir. Yeah. So Wade and Water. I used to have a gospel group in the late 90s that we called the Praise Connection. We used to do this gig. It was every Sunday night. It was at a restaurant called the Praise Connection, which was a gospel supper club. And then we just named the guy that owned it at the time had told me he wanted to do music, wanted me to come down and look at it. So I did. And I'd never done anything on my own. I had just been playing with Gladys Knight for a few years, and I quit. And so I went down and looked at it, and it was amazing because I stood. It used to be a jazz club, so he leased it out. It had a disco ball and a dance floor in it. And I stood on that dance floor, and I saw that place full of people. And so I just told him I would do the music, and I put a band together and got 4 singers. And I remember the first night that we were gonna play, I was only gonna charge $5, but I had never done anything on my own. And so I panicked, and I didn't think anybody was gonna come. So I said, well, okay, I'm not gonna charge, it's just gonna be free. And then of course that first night it was so packed you couldn't even get in there. And I think that was one of the times when I started really recognizing how many people were aware of me. You know, because you don't look at that stuff, man. You know, but certain things will happen in your life that will show you that. And so we started playing every Sunday night, and it was crazy because my singers were Eric Dawkins and some other real great LA singers you guys probably don't know. A girl named Keisha Eagley, who was one of the original Kurt Carr singers, and my sister Jackie. I don't know how aware of my sister Jackie, how aware of her you guys are. You know that song, My Help, all of My Help?
Yeah.
My sister Jackie wrote that song.
Wow.
And on that record, Bam Crawford's Purpose and, you know, Perpetual Praise. That's my sister. She wrote that song, and she wrote My Help too. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for my nephews right now. If you guys are paying attention, if you saw the show on Netflix, Rhythm and Flow, that's my nephew, D Smoke, that won. That's my middle nephew, my sister's middle son. And he might be up for an Emmy for that show. But and my youngest nephew, Inglewood Sir, I don't know if you guys heard that song, I Just Want to Let My Hair Down. That's my youngest nephew. So it's been amazing to watch the gifts pass down and grow bigger, because they are like literally stars, both my nephews now. But Wade in the Water. So it was just one of those songs that I had my singers, and we used to rehearse on Saturday, and then we would do the Praise Connection on Sunday night. So I was waiting for my singers. They used to rehearse at my house, and I'm sitting there on Saturday morning. I just start going. And I started singing Wade in the Water on top of it. And the singers were on their way, and so when they came, I showed it to them. I arranged it that day, like one day. I put the whole thing together, made up the verses to it. I mean, really cliche verses. I stepped in the water. Water was cold, chilled my body, but not my soul, you know. But Warren Campbell, who's married to Erica from Mary Mary, I've known Warren since he was a little kid. And all of them used to come, like anytime any artists were in town, they would come to Praise Connection. And so Warren comes, he hears us do the song, we do it that night, and everybody goes crazy. And Warren's like, man, where did you get that from? I was like, well, it's my arrangement. I just made it up yesterday. And he was like, man, you gotta let me do that on Mary Mary. And I was like, who's that? He was like, well, Erica and Tina, that's my new group. They hadn't even done anything yet. And I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So he said, great. So when he called me, he said, yeah, man, we want to cut the song. He said, I want you to produce it. I was like, cool. And so we went to the studio. We had a blast doing it. And then the next thing you know, doggone record, because that album, because of Shackles, that album sold 4.5 million copies. And my song is number 13, I think 11 or 13 on the album. What I learned was, when you buy a CD, number 13 sells just as much as number 1 does. So I'm the only one, when I went to him to talk to him about how he wanted to do the royalty splits on the song, he's like, man, I don't want none of that song. He said, that's yours. He said, you were a blessing to me when you didn't even know. He said, I had to have you on this record. So I wound up getting 100% writers and publishing on the song that sold 4.5 million copies. And that's when I learned that there's a whole other kind of money that you ain't gonna never get being a musician. And it was funny because from 97 to 06, I didn't tour with anybody. So people were like, well, who are you playing with? I was like, I'm not playing with anybody. What are you doing? And I was like, well, you know. And then they came and saw where I lived, and they saw where I was driving, and then there was a rumor in LA that I was selling drugs. Like, that rumor that I was a drug dealer. But anyway, you don't have a lot of time, right? I'm gonna play something. I want to hear something fast or something slow.
Something fast. Something fast. We need to wake up.
What you say? All right, I'll play it. That's my boy Donald Hayes. I want you guys. I want to give a shout out to Shaka Khan, because even though she still fired me, I still work for her every time I use her voice on my tracks on my clinics. Y'all give it up for Shanae on drums. That last part, I kind of did as a tribute to Joel. You guys remember that James Moore song, Joy? That's a Joel Smith thing. And boy, it was so cold-blooded on bass, man. Joel, the first time I saw him play, in 1975 at the Watts Summer Festival. In the Hawkins family, I didn't know him then. I was 16 years old. I thought I was so sweet on bass. And then I saw Joel Smith. and I got depressed. I literally, but what it did was, it motivated me, and I needed that to make me, to humble me, to let me know, don't never think you the first or the last one. And because this is when, I remember, he said, like, who did that? Nobody was doing that. Joel Smith did that in 1975, man. And that's when I saw him play. And I went home and was trying to figure out how he did that. Anyway, so I know we don't have much more time. I want to play. What? Anybody got any questions? Anything else? Yes, sir. I can't hear you.
Your next book, and that first one. Your next book, and that first one came out with.
Oh, you know, it's funny because this whole Corona thing has slowed down a lot of stuff. Like I literally, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I went through a period where I was actually depressed because I'm just so disheartened by what I see going on in the world. And I had to shake myself out of that and say, you have to focus on everything that's positive. That's the only way we're gonna get through this, because like I stopped watching the news. I had to.
Yeah.
And all these stupid posts, and it's not, I'm not trying to be political, but the false narratives are not just coming from the right, they're coming from the left too. It's like they're all saying stuff, and you do fact checks on stuff, you'd be like, that's not even true. Like that picture of Trump with his mother, and that quote where his mother saying he's an idiot, that's not even true, you know. But we're so funny, as soon as we see something, like most people, I can't count the people that say they got their news from Facebook. Facebook is a book of lies. That's what it is. But I had to literally pick myself up out of being depressed for a minute and be like, no, I'm not going out like that. So all musicians, everybody in here is a musician, right? Everybody in here should be way better on an instrument.
That's right.
When this is over with. Because you ain't got no excuse now. You at home, you might as well practice. You know, all those things you've been thinking about trying to do it. So what I'm doing right now, I'm actually finishing 2 records, my second instrumental record. And then my group, The Praise Connection, we did a live recording in 2000 that I never released. And so I'm mixing that record, and the amazing part to me is that it still sounds incredible. It doesn't sound out of date. That just showed me that what we were doing was so far ahead of its time that it sounds current now. I would play something for y'all, but I don't want to give it away yet. But trust me, it's coming soon, y'all.
Here we go.
That was 15 years ago when I did that. Listen, thank you guys. I want to thank my friend Johnny Long for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming out to support. I really appreciate it. And give it up for my man David Dyson too, y'all. Peace, absolute peace.